as somebody who used to binge and purge and hasn't binged and purged in 32 years, I think,
Mm-hmm.
I consider myself recovered. We're
Yeah.
in recovery, not recovered though. I have to keep an ear
Of
and
course.
eye always vigilant. I still write down my food every day. It makes me feel good. It just makes me
Sure.
feel safe, like Tara
There you go.
said. Tell me what you two are still dealing with, because I think a lot of people think, oh, Alexandra, Tara, and Adam, they're all good now, and
Yeah.
it's done.
My biggest lesson that I have yet to learn how to care for well is my anxiety. My anxiety is my go-to because what I'm so worried about and what I dealt with so much in my life was a fear of tomorrow not being safe. Something that I may do today could create a very unsafe place for me tomorrow. And so I'm constantly hyper vigilant, even today, about that. What might I not have done right or perfectly that might make tomorrow something I'm not too hopeful to be a part of? Right now, it's not completely creating a sense that tomorrow isn't hopeful or exciting or safe, but there's always this part of me that is constantly hyper vigilant for, is that going to be there? And that can be an overwhelming experience. And the thing that I go back to, and I find this to be a major part of my recovery, was instead of trying to figure out how to never feel that way or how to insult that signal, really start to ask the question and to investigate, why does that signal make so much sense? I think it's so important if we can create an idea and an understanding that typically for the majority of people, for what they're dealing with, what they are feeling and how they are acting makes sense, then it's a lot less a result of pathology or brain chemistry gone wrong or genetics gone wrong, but a reasonable response to life as it is right now in response to what has happened to you in your life and your perception of how you feel tomorrow might be as a result of it. So these are learned responses. They are likely incredibly reasonable and incredibly sensible to each individual. And so for me, when I start to feel anxious, instead of being upset that I still have this thing that one might call anxiety, I recognize that right now the anxiety I feel is not in a state of disorder. It's not so overwhelming so that it has disordered my ability to be present in my life in a healthy and meaningful way as it used to be. So that's fantastic. I don't like the feeling of anxiety. I can deal with sadness far better than I can with anxiety. So I recognize it's just not a comfortable place for me to be in. I'd prefer it to be different, and that's okay. But rather, is my environment set up for me to live the life I want to live? Are my priorities and values well established and well rooted so that it drives me and moves me towards decisions I want to make to maintain this sense of purpose and sense of life, so that it moves me forward in the direction that I want to go? And do I have resources and tools that I can draw upon if ever I feel that these feelings are getting a little out of hand? Do I have someone I can call? Do I have a therapist I can work with? Do I have a playbook that I can use? And so those are my things. And I think that that's pretty darn good. And I think that's a reasonable way to establish a life where, instead of saying, I'm not recovered until I don't feel this way, create a reality that at this point, my recovered state still includes anxiety that I'm not comfortable with.
You mentioned that you'd had a lot of struggles with OCD and depression, but that food was something you were really focusing on. That leads me to believe that that's the one that like Adam might come up when times aren't 100% perfect, which that happens a lot.
Yeah, for me, I would say that I can second so many things that Adam just explained there. And for me, I think of these things as tendencies. And I will say that actually the food piece feels pretty distant for me these days, honestly. Like, there aren't many food things that come up for me. It's more so those underlying pieces of the anxiety or the OCD that might still come up. But for me, I see those as tendencies. I see them as things that come out to remind me if I'm not taking care of myself. Because when I'm in a place where I'm taking really good care of myself, where I'm using all of those tools that build that foundation of mental wellness, I really feel like I feel so far removed from the anxiety that I had as a child, from the OCD that I had as a child and as a young adult, from the disordered eating. Like, I don't really resonate with those experiences in the same way anymore. And at the same time, of course, they still come up because we have those inborn tendencies. And so for me, when I notice myself like washing a dish like 5 times, or like doing those little things, or noticing myself feeling more of that anxiety, or if I do have like a food thought that comes up, for me, it's more so a sign to myself of, okay, like take a step back and look at my life. Kind of like Adam said, like, let's take an assessment, like what here isn't working, what pieces are falling away that are allowing this thing to creep back in. Because for me, I know from, years of experience at this point that when I'm taking really good care of myself, when I'm living in this state of, like I said, mental wellness, those things don't show up for me. And so there's that piece that I'll say. And the other piece is, like Adam said, not being afraid of those parts of myself. They're just parts. I don't know if you've spoken about parts work on this podcast before, but, understanding that those are just pieces of me and they're trying to protect me. Like I said at the start, they have my best interest at heart, even though they're misguided. It's kind of, I think of it as like, when you have like a toddler and they see you sweeping and they're like, they want to help. And so they grab the broom and they're just kind of like pushing things around. It's not actually helpful, but they really think that they're being helpful. And so I think of those parts of me as similar. It's like they're showing up because they want to help. Like they're showing up, they're like, oh, if we just control this thing, then you won't be afraid. Or like, oh, if we just do this thing, then, everything will be okay. And so when I see those parts come up, I have compassion for them. I have compassion for myself going through the experience of experiencing them. And I try to take a step back and say, it's okay. You're allowed to be here, and know that I can hold space for those parts of myself without having to listen to them. And that's a huge change for me. As a child, teenager, young adult, I really felt like a victim to my own brain. If a thought came in, it was kind of like, well, like now I have to either do what this thought says or like live with it for the next 10 days. Like it really just felt like if my brain had a thought, or if I had like some sort of like rumination or whatever was coming up, it was like, I cannot be okay unless I take this behavior response, whether that was like, a standard like cleanliness OCD type thing, which was what came up for me sometimes, or like a food behavior. It was just like, I can't be okay unless I can do this thing. And it's so different to now be able to see that part of me come up and still feel safety within myself to be like, you're allowed to be here. Like you're allowed to, sit at the big like meeting room table, the boardroom table. You're allowed to be one of the parts at the table, but like I'm the CEO. And so you're allowed to voice your fear. You're allowed to voice what's coming up for you. You're allowed to voice what you'd really think I should do right now. But like I'm the CEO and I'm going to make a calm decision from a centered, grounded place that is the best decision for our team, which is me.